All right. So, good evening, everyone. It's an honor to have Mr. Sunil, uh, and this is one of our first webinars in the SPM Excellence practices. So, welcome, Sunil. And uh, before I pass it on to Harvinder would be moderating this session for us. Harvinder is currently working as a product manager at Honeywell with over 13 years of experience. He's currently leading the strategy and the execution of the SaaS offerings, enterprise SaaS offerings for Honeywell right now. So welcome, Harvinder. Just a couple of housekeeping items. We would have everyone on mute, and then if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to use the chat section. And we already have a few questions. We'll try to collect as many questions as possible in next 60 minutes, and we'll try to address that at the end of the session during the question answers round. So with that, I'll pass it on to Harvinder. Harvinder, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Abhijit. Thank you. And welcome all. I think the participants will joining in and we can start. So welcome to the ISPMA Success Story Series, where we are going to look at the product management practices with Finacle Mobile Teller. And what is an ISPMA for the new participants? It's an International Software Product Management Association. It is a non-profit open association of experts, companies, and research institutes with a goal to foster software product management excellence across industries. An ISPMA establishes software product management as a discipline in both academia and industry, maintaining a curriculum and a certifiable body of knowledge. So moving from here, and you can see this is the ISPMA software product management framework across different verticals, covering the cross-functional work which is done in the product management. And coming to the today's series, where we have Mr. Sunil as a speaker. Sunil has over 2 decades of experience with leading consulting and technology companies, including McKinsey, Accenture, Infosys, and Oracle. Currently, as a part of Infosys, Sunil leads ecosystem innovation group that works closely with the startups in the banking ecosystem. And he has been part of the team that has successfully incubated some of the new age digital solutions like Finacle Mobile Teller and Customer Assist. Sunil has an MBA from IIM Lucknow and holds a BTech from IIT Dhanbad. He is also an author of the best-selling technology fiction, Who Stole My Job? Welcome, Sunil, and thank you for being here to share your experience, knowledge, journey of developing SMT. And let's start with you. And I think as we all have seen, the digitalization is everywhere. Right? We are not seeing that it is not happening anywhere. I think banks are not far away from that. So looking at the bank branch, which has been the mainstay for the consumers and the business banking, right, for all the centuries. And with this rise of these disruptive technologies, this fintech and digital-only banks, we have seen how that has put a pressure on how the bank branching can be changed. I think that's what in this increasing digital and the mobile world, the role of a bank branch is going to evolve, and that's what we are going to hear from Sunil, how they're disrupting the branch banking with the FMT, and what were the product management practices that made this product a great success. Over to you, Sunil. Welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvinder, for the introduction, and thanks, Abhijit, for arranging this session. I'll just share my screen and just let me know when it's visible.
Yeah.
So hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So again, welcome everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to present this solution. We had presented this solution in 2019 in ISPMA Summit, and this was one of the product among the Excellence Award winner. So as Harvinder has set the context already, the product is more about the branch digitization. Now we all know how digitization is important in the banking sector, of course, in all the sectors, but we limit the conversation here in the banking area. with this whole digital money and all this mobile banking, internet banking, everything coming in. This space is very exciting. So I lead a small team actually that works on the new ideas, and we incubate new solutions in this space of digital banking. So this product was one of the incubation that our team had worked out earlier. So let me so this is what I intend to cover: the interaction about the company and the product. Then, since the conversation is primarily around ISPMA framework, so I would briefly touch upon what are the things that I thought would be relevant for my product, and then some case studies and how this we want to take it forward. So some way forward. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware of Infosys Finacle, so Infosys Finacle is primarily into the banking space, banking product, software product development space, and we are having product or client across 100 countries and over 1 billion consumers, so end users who use Finacle, and more than so. These are some of the statistics. In India also, we have used this very extensively, and all across the globe, the product is implemented. And then in terms of the coverage, Finacle covers all kind of product, from digital engagement to core banking to the backend systems, as well as various business areas like wealth management, deposits, lending, trade finance, and all that. So coming to the product of the discussion today, we call it Finacle Mobile Teller. The idea of this solution was to take the branch experience completely digital, right? And when I say digital, I'm making it smart. So if you have visited the branch, and I'm sure some of you have done it, the traditional experience in the branch is the teller is there behind the desk, and there is a queue, and then the whole thing, is the experience is not very good, right? So we wanted to change this whole experience by providing a solution using which the teller can sit across with the customer, and they can share the screen, they can share the whole experience, and they can make it more like a coffee shop kind of conversation. So we wanted to change the experience of the customer visiting the branch. Now, while doing so, we redesigned the whole experience on tablet. This solution is also available on mobile. And the idea was that we make the branch a zero queue branch. And again, being on digital or tablet, and this can also be used for work from home, or this can also be used for doorstep banking, especially for the senior citizens and different kind of people. So the idea was to make the whole branch banking completely smart and fully digital. And while doing so, we also wanted to leverage the capabilities of device, let's say the photo capture abilities, or voice or authentication, or those kind of things, right? So that was the idea behind this solution. The primary trigger was to change the experience. So if you see all the um, traditional enterprise application, they have still not geared up to the modern app kind of experience that typically we see in our daily life, right? So the idea behind this solution was to create those app kind of experience for the enterprise user as well. So we had different types of personas that we created. So it could be actually it has been created for all the users in the bank. So it could be teller or relationship manager, or the agents who typically visit and sell uh, loan or deposit or different kind of product. Okay, so this is again more detail about the product. And as I said, this was almost entire branch banking encapsulated in tablets. So using this, the bank user could do onboarding. So they could onboard new customer, they could sell the new products from the bank, they could do loan origination and things like that. And they could do account opening and various things, and all transaction management, like typical branch transactions, all cash deposit, demand draft, and all service requests. So typically whatever you can do while visiting the branch, this could be done on the tablet, right? Now, coming to the framework that we used and how we applied the product framework. So this is a representation of the business model canvas. So problem, as I said, we already in fact we spoke about that is, let's say, addressing the long queue in the branch. Then the teller is tied to a particular location. So uh, teller not being able to serve the customer at their location. And one of the important part was also teller efficiency. So idea of making this solution was to make it very simple so that the transaction can be done in just few clicks rather than doing a lot of other things. Okay, so solution we spoke about, it was like a paperless digital smart branch on tablet. And the metrics of this product is primarily the license revenue. So the product is based on the number of users as of now. And then other metrics is, in fact, we did some case studies with the client, and I'll share some of them as well, that resulted into reducing the average time to serve the customer and the queue length and all those things, right? The unique value proposition was that since we already have a lot of solution from Finacle in the banking space, so we could leverage the existing client relationship and existing product portfolio to quickly integrate with the other suite of solution, right? Advantage is in the similar line that in enterprise, though we have seen a lot of space, a lot of apps in the retail space, there are not so many in the enterprise solution. So that was an advantage. Channels, of course, traditional Infosys sales channel we used. Okay. And then there's some more detail about the customer segment. So this could be initially tried for the high net worth customer, especially in case of doorstep banking and all that, and later on it could be extended to others. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. Okay, so this is the ISPMA heat map that Harvinder presented earlier. And here, since this is more of a product incubation, so we had the early incubation um, areas relevant for this, right? So uh, as I said, portfolio management was an important part because this product actually is part of the larger banking um, product portfolio. Okay, innovation was a very key component in this whole product development because we had to we had to bring in the new technology, the newest user experience, the newest framework for localization or customization, and all these things are very crucial for the product development and initial success. Okay, then delivery model and service strategy, again, in a typical product framework, we had a product engineering team, then we have a product implementation team, and then there is a product support team. So all these people actually collaborate, and then after the product implementation is done, the transition is done to the service support team. Okay, pricing is a challenge, of course, for any new product, and so was for this, because if the product is not available in the market, especially in the enterprise domain, we do not have much information about the pricing of the product, right? So this is more of a discovery process, and I'll say that we are still into it because we are trying to figure out where the value or how the product is giving to the bank. So I'll say this is more like a discovery process based on client to client, then ecosystem management, because the solution has an integration with a lot of backend systems and other partners like fintechs, and also it also had to think of the various integration framework or various strategy around that. Okay, then requirement engineering, of course, is very crucial part of any new product development. So, so we incorporated that, and then of course customer analysis. So here, since we had a clear understanding of the kind of banks that we were targeting, and the kind of persona that we were targeting. So we had a better view of their day, the typical job in the day, and then what all they do. So this customer analysis helped us in refining the product. Then typical sales planning and customer relationship management also followed along with the product development. Okay. So moving to the next one, I think some of this I already spoke. So these are the areas that I think were relevant for the development of this product. So one was, let's say, the portfolio management approach that I already spoke, since this was already part of a bouquet of solution from Finacle. So it gives advantage in cross leveraging, and a portfolio approach was taken. Pricing, innovation management, customer analysis, and product requirement engineering, I briefly spoke about. So pricing is still something that is under discovery. Rest all is, of course, evolving process, and we have pretty much got that. Okay, so this is the client impact. So we have implemented this product now in quite a few banks, and this is one of the bank in South Africa, and they have implemented this solution in more than 15 African countries. So this is headquartered in South Africa, but they have branches all across Africa. And they did a study of the branch after the implementation of the solution, and this is what they found. So one was, let's say, the training time had come down from 5 days to 2 hours. So one of the objective of the solution was also to make it so simple and intuitive that there is no user manual required for that. The solution should be like a self directed and something like a typical app, right? Today, when you log into mobile banking, you do not go through the user manual, or so it is already navigation happens automatically, right? So that was the idea. Then we brought down the number of screens because we wanted to make this whole thing very simple, and this resulted into increased throughput, and the basically quick transaction time. And eventually, we understood that the queues in the branch came down, and this was one of the success for the bank. Okay, this is another example in Australia where the whole sales team had used the solution to leverage the new product offering, as well as serving the existing client. And this is a great union, so they have used this to serve their customers at their location, especially in the doorstep banking or specific locations. Okay, so this was what we had developed this product, and the next evolution of this product is, in fact, this was driven very much from the current situation of pandemic. So we know that today people do not visit the branch very often, and the all kind of contact services are actually not very encouraged. So we came up with this new offering, which is on top of the Finacle Mobile Teller. We call it virtual banking. Here, the idea was that the customer will visit the branch virtually. So we know that a lot of people in India, in fact, though they are not very comfortable with mobile banking, internet banking, but they're quite comfortable with something like WhatsApp banking. So here we created entire experience on the WhatsApp, so the user can connect with the bank bank user also. So they can do some automated transaction, of course, that is available in other WhatsApp banking from various banks. But here we added a unique feature using which the customer can connect with the branch. Okay, and when they connect, then just like when they visit the branch, they have a token, they have a waiting time. So all those features, the queue management, everything that we built, and then we are implementing this in one of the solution in one of the banks in India. And this is what we want to take it further. So we want to make this as a hub, a virtual banking hub. We want to transform this FMT into virtual banking, where different kind of social media or even mobile banking or internet banking can connect with a common hub, which can talk to Finacle Mobile Teller and which can talk to different core systems. So this is the next evolution that we want for this product, and we have already started working in this direction. So this is what I briefly wanted to cover, and as I said, the product is under evolution. So we have implemented this already in quite a few banks, and then we want to take it to the next level.
Right. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sunil. I think this is a great uh, product which came. I think although you started before pandemic, but I think this would have got a good boost during the pandemic time. And yeah, yeah. So I think what we'll do next, we'll have some fireside chat together, and then we'll move to the questions from the audience. So, right, when you were sharing a business model canvas, right, and then you came to the ISPM framework. So, what I'm keen to understand is what was the trigger for this new development, right? Because you mentioned about the product discovery phase, right? And there are different stages of the development, and each one of them is vital for the success of the product. But looking at this initiation stage, right, at the early stage, how was the product discovery done? What was the trigger point for this? And how did you figure it out? What is that you need to build even before you start doing something? So how are you doing that part?
Yeah, so thanks, Arvinder. I think that's a very good question. The In fact, one of the trigger was the user experience of the branch, right? And as I said earlier, that though a lot of retail app have moved to the new experience, app kind of thing, but the entire enterprise applications are still traditionally, they are complex, they are clumsy, or they are, not easy to navigate, and you need a lot of training and a lot of background to operate those systems. So our idea behind this solution was that why not uh, take the retail app experience to the enterprise user also. So why not we create for the bank user some experience which is like a Facebook, or let's say other Google, or those kind of easy to navigate kind of experience. So that was the trigger behind that. And we also got this input while we kind of demonstrated our product, that why not we make it very simple, easy, intuitive, why somebody has to really do some training to really operate this product. Right? So that was the trigger behind this, the user experience, how we can make it easy to operate, and how we can, of course, and then the whole digital mobility, all those things also came in. But the primary thing was the user experience.
Right. I think that's a very important point to look at how the user experience of the enterprise users, not just the retail, has been still getting a lot of benefits of that UX, but not for the enterprise users. I think that's right thing to do. And then, when you start doing that, right, when you are in the product discovery stage, you are working with your team, right, to identify what we need to build, and then this is the ongoing process, right? Every week you're iterating, you're building something, right? And so sometimes what happens, what I have seen, right, after a couple of weeks, a couple of sprints for the spikes and done, right, I see the team starts struggling, right? They are not able to see the bigger picture. What is that we are gonna do, right? So lot of learnings are already there with them. They know what's happening, but still, putting together a bigger picture for the team is a challenge. So did you face any such challenges with your UX team, development team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is again a very relevant question, especially if you are designing something on the UX side. Then there are a lot of varied viewpoints, right? And then almost everybody has an opinion about the UX, right? So what we did is that we focused on the persona, the people who are going to use it, and then we tried to figure out what are the kind of tasks they do on a daily basis, right? And then what is the we kind of did some kind of study around the um, tellers operations during the day, and then what is the frequency and what is all those kind of study we did, and based on that we came up with a mix of activities in the transaction, and how we could make it simple or easy, at the same time quick navigation. So it was, as I said, it is of course very challenging to devise any standardized UX for a lot of people. But if we focus on the persona that we are planning to build this solution for, then then the problem scope narrows down, and then you get better clarity on what you intend to do. So I'll say focusing on the persona, validating with the customers, the banks, and then iterating it multiple times is what I'll say was the essence of it.
Right. I think that's wonderful approach, right? Ideating the flows, experimenting, identifying gaps, and validating the customer, and then lean school of your development. And since you already had started this thing before the pandemic, right? And then in and we had this pandemic situation created. So how did you react to that market situation, which was having a challenging situation for a lot of these software SaaS businesses, as well as for the new development? A lot of launches went on hold, and it had a lot of impact, right? You didn't know what to do something at a time when people are not going to look at it because of the other challenges which they are having, right? So, what were some of those opportunities which you discovered, identified during the pandemic times, and how did you work with those things? Was it a big pivot which you had to do, or was it the new features you identified for that time, or you said, okay, our strategy is perfect fit, like we are using Zoom, so Zoom had its strategy perfectly fitting well at that time, right? When March 2020, if you look at the work from home started and all those remote calls started, the share price of the Zoom went up, right? So was it something like that for you?
Yeah, so absolutely. In fact, this pandemic has changed work life for everybody, and banks are no exception. Even we see the regulations have changed. In fact, RBI has relaxed a lot of things. So we can do video KYC now for authenticating. Visiting the branch is not mandatory. So regulations also have changed, and of course the practices the branch have also changed. So what we did is that we tried to align with those emerging trends, right? So we thought, why not make this whole experience virtual, right? And instead of somebody visiting the branch, taking a token, getting it served, and all that stuff, or even the branch user visiting the customer, since the contact is not something we very encouraged during these times. So why not we take this whole thing um, completely virtual in the most frictionless way? And that's where we came up with this WhatsApp interaction with the user. So this WhatsApp channel that we built on top of this was actually, I'll say, a kind of culmination of this pandemic thing. And then we plan to build more onto this because we believe that this is going to be the future. There's going to be more and more of the virtual interaction, whether it's a video, audio, or maybe even chat, right? So that's the direction that we want to take this product further.
Right, right. I think that's a very well point. Improving or strategy is not a one time job. You need to keep evolving it. That's what. And Abhijit, what we'll do, we'll open up for the question and answer if there are questions from the audience. And I think we have the one during the form submission. Sunil, do you want to take this? What were the challenges you faced in adoption of consumerization in enterprise? I think the point which you mentioned, how did you brought the UX, simple UX for the enterprise users, which was there in retail? So what were the challenges you faced in making that adopted to the enterprise users?
Yeah, so again, I think the adoption from the user perspective, this is very well accepted. But from the application, from the bank perspective, there was a mindset change, right? Because this whole architecture, this whole practice of doing this whole thing on the device, because traditionally the tellers are supposed to perform certain things in certain way. So there was a change in the way that probably a typical bank staff operates. So the effort was more from that side, and in fact, some of those work is still, the change management is still ongoing, rather than the user. For the user, it was probably a easier interface, a better and quicker interface, and Other challenges that we faced in this was typically standardization, because if you're building a product for different and across different markets and all that stuff, the architecture should support something like localization or customization or changing certain things based on certain segment, and all this should be supported in the architecture without actually duplicating the code. So that was a change, that was a challenge from the architecture side.
Right, right. And there are other questions in the chat window. So let's look at what additional security challenges were relevant and how difficult was it to overcome. I think you mentioned about the regulatory challenges. There were regulatory changes during pandemic. So you want to mention about that?
Yes, of course. So regulatory challenge is, of course, one of them. So that, in fact, now the regulators also have come forward and started facilitating this, because they know that um, digital transactions, payments, everything have been going up, and in fact, they want to encourage that also, right? So other security challenges that since everything was done earlier within the branch and all informations were kept within that, so the privacy, security, all those things were actually at least limited to the physical premises. But let's say if we take the branch off and if we start doing transactions on the move, then those security features become important. So we had a lot of, in fact, additional security features that we had put in both at the device level as well as network level, as well as, of course, the typical user binding. So we had features like even if the device is stolen, even if somebody knows the password or something, then also the person will not be able to use, because we had used multi-factor authentication, including biometrics and all that. So the thing was that yes, of course, there are additional security challenge because of solution like this, but there are also ways to probably address it.
Right, right. Thank you. I think that answers Venkatesh your question. And next, let's move to the next one. And what are some of the best practices applicable for, I think, products like Finacle, which are critical for product success?
Yeah, so it's a very broad question, so I'll give a very generic answer. So, product which has got different market, different types of market that operate in different way. Let's say advanced market, then there is developing market, then there are other different markets, right? So, creating one universal product for all of them and maintaining one product like framework, that is the biggest challenge, right? Because what happens is that you do some project for some bank and then you create another project, so you start duplicating this, and this is not the philosophy of the product. The product philosophy is that every work should be additive, so every implementation should enrich the product and it should bring back the features into the mainstream. So that is where I think the challenge is to create one branch, or I'll say one main code base for all different implementations, have a very robust localization and customization framework, and of course, adding features and all those things, that goes without saying.
Right, right. Okay. So, follow up on that one is also how did you take the major features, right? Did they come from sales or the other stakeholders, or directly coming from the end users, enterprises like ICICI Bank, which is going to use the Finacle product?
Yeah, so in fact, it was both. We Since we have a lot of lot of banks as a customer, and we talk to them, so we take their feedback, right? So a lot of feedback actually came from them. And then, as I said, we also had direct user interaction. So we studied the user, let's say, tell a day in a typical job, and then we studied those things. So it was both the primary experience with the teller, and then of course feedback from the bank. So it was done mostly in the design thinking manner. So we took the input, we built it, we showed it to them, and then again iterated it.
Right. And there's a question from another colleague of yours from Finacle. Anil, he's asking how important is to have the interaction with customer while building enterprise products. I think some of this we covered earlier.
Yeah, I think it is very important because eventually it is the customer's customer only who are going to, help the banks grow, right? So whether we are building mobile banking or internet banking, in that case, of course, there is a end customer involved. But even in case of enterprise customer, it's very important. So in this case, we did not take any direct feedback from them. Of course, we ourselves have been customers, so some idea we have, but our whole focus was how to change the experience of the customer who is visiting the branch. And that's why we spoke about, let's say, the coffee table kind of experience, the conversation, and all that, right? So of course, though we enhanced the experience of the enterprise user, but the driving force behind that was to actually serve the end customer better. And of course, efficiency, operations, zero queue, all those things eventually help the end customer as well.
Right, right. And another question for Venkatesh: how long did it take to roll the product out from the concept stage?
So I'll say it was um, close to, I'll say 1.5 to 2 years, I'll say. Because what happens is that though the idea is basically liked by many people, but getting the first client is not very easy. I mean, and that's where most of the so between ideation to getting the first client is a big jump. Okay, so I'll say in this case, I'll say it's been at least 1.5 to 2 years, and after that it becomes easier. So one of the large bank, if they endorse the product, it becomes easier. But the first client is very very difficult to. Okay.
Right. And did you use any specific prioritization framework?
Yeah, of course. Yes, yes, very much. So basically, as I said, these are again vast thing. So we started prioritization at various level. What are the personas that we want to focus on? Then a branch typically does so many other things. So how many of those 60-70% of the features would be relevant to the particular this kind of solution? And then we wanted to also build this in phases. So for that also we had to do prioritization. So I guess still it doesn't have all the features of the branch banking, and we do not intend to replicate entire thing here. So the prioritization will always be there.
Right. Okay, I think this is what we had for today. And yeah, I think I take away a lot of learnings from this, Sunil. I think understanding the enterprise users, their UX for them, building specifically for them, how do they leverage in enterprise product, how the UX can be applied there. That is the core for this application, right? And then looking at the different people, different personas, how do they use this thing, looking at their activities, validating with them, keep iterating, keep learning. And I think those are the key takeaways we take from this. And back to you, Abhijit. Thank you, Sunil.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, Sunil. I mean, as Harvinder said, there are a lot of things that everyone can take away from certain strategical methodologies that you used. I'm pretty sure everyone can take back a few things, start applying those to the daily practices that they're following for product management. And I'm also pretty sure that with leaders like you, the exponential growth that Finacle has achieved, every new feature, every new product you're building alongside would have similar success stories in the future as well. So it was a pleasure hosting you. Thank you so much. And I believe this is the end of the first webinar that we have on the SPM Excellence practices. Anybody wants to add anything before we close, or we are good from everyone's end? Like Venkatesh, Harvinder, anything you want to add, or we're good?
It's a great start and excited to be in this. And there are certainly a lot of takeaways, and all the best for the series.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Venkateshwar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Abhijit.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your weekend,
Thanks,
everyone.
Abhijit.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Abhijit.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Bye.